And this is my child. That means more to me than anything in the world. And so that's why through everything, everyone said she's not going to wake up. It's not going to happen. I just held on to my faith and I just stood my ground, which I think no matter what the outcome comes, whether you get what you want or you get what you don't, I think the thing is we got to realize is that we still have to have faith in whatever you believe in. You still have to have faith in that source, and mine is obviously God. And don't be shaken by what anyone else tells you or by what your eyes physically see.
Hello, and welcome to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. This podcast is about exploring the grief that occurs at different times in our lives in which we have had major changes and transitions that literally shake us to the core and make us experience grief. I created this podcast for people to feel a little less hopeless and alone in their own grief process as they hear the stories of others who have had similar journeys. I'm Kendra Rinaldi, your host. Now, let's dive right into today's episode. Welcome to today's episode. Today we have a new friend of mine, Glory. Glory and I have not ever met, but I had seen so many different posts of other people that I follow on Instagram sharing her story. And we happen to be partnered with the same health and wellness company. So I actually did get to see her on stage, but I didn't get to actually meet you, Glory. But there was something about your story and just your presence and your journey that just kept kind of calling me, and that's why I reached out, and I was just so grateful that you accepted to come on and share a little bit of your journey through this grief story that will be a tough one to talk about, but we will be giving lots of tools for people as they're listening as to how you have kept going in your day to day. So welcome, Glory.
Thank you for having me on.
I'm so glad you're here. So, Glory, a little bit about you. You're a mom of three. You live. What? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your story. You, Glory.
Okay. Yeah. My name's Glory. I'm from Central California, so Clovis, California. We like to call ourselves the heart of California. Born and
Oh, I had
raised.
never heard that. Cool.
Born and
That's
raised, yeah.
cute. Hmm.
Um, and I've been married. It's going to be 10 years in September 12th.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
And I loved it. Glory shared her little love story with me in our pre-interview. We got to talk before that, and it was just so cute because what's the other? You share the same name as your mother-in-law, right? Is that correct? Is
correct.
that how it
Yeah,
was?
correct. Yeah,
But just in
correct.
a different
Yeah.
language. Yours Glory, she's Gloria, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
I
she has the
love that
Spanish version.
of yours. So awesome.
Yeah. So I've been married. I will be September 12th for 10 years. And I got married really young. A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you got married so young. I got married when I was 20, almost 21. And then I had my first daughter, Presley, right before I turned, what was it? Let's see. Yeah, she's 2011, so right before I turned 21, actually. So she was a honeymoon baby. Too many margaritas in Mexico. So yeah, she was a little bundle of surprise. And then I had my second born, Kassidy, 2 years later, and then I also had my son Zane, and I just had him. Oh gosh, he's 4 now, so he's
So
my newest addition to our
you just
family.
you
So
little the little one, the little bundle of joy. And so
yes.
you are an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. You have your own online health and wellness company. What other things do you do, and what other things are you passionate about?
So that's what's really interesting about the business, the health and wellness business that we're in. I wasn't necessarily looking for it. I was at a point in my life where, I became such a young mom, and my husband owns his own painting contracting business. that it was one of those decisions where it's like, okay, I can't finish school because I need to be at home with our baby because it's more financially stable for me to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of, a big sacrifice where I was just like, okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. And then I had, Kassidy. And so I've been in sales my whole life. I've worked at, many retail stores. I used to sell Mercedes Benz for a couple years. Um, so,
Do you
I'm
drive one? Do you dri
I
here, do
did,
you
I
drive one
did.
now?
I
Okay,
did
okay.
drive one, but once I had
Nice.
Cassidy, then we had to get an SUV. So
Yeah, you needed
I had to
more
switch it
room.
in, yeah. I had to switch her in.
Mom vehicle to SUV, you didn't get a minivan, you didn't get the
Yeah.
minivan,
I
you went to an SUV.
I couldn't do it. I was just like, "You know what? I thought I could drive a minivan, but I can't do it. It has to be an SUV."
It's so funny because 'cause I'm one of those that the same. I could do an SUV, but for some reason, I could not
I
just
just
bring
couldn't do
myself to buy
it.
a
I don't
minivan.
know. I was
But
like,
my
"I can't."
sister had one and she loved it, and it was so convenient and so roomy. Now they changed, but, I could see when I would ride it how convenient it
Oh,
was to have
totally.
them,
I
and the
mean, that
doors closing by themselves, when you're like your hands are full with groceries and everything. I'm like, so convenient. I think it's more like I don't think my husband would have liked to be driving the minivan if we weren't in it. That's really the
Yeah,
reason. Yeah.
exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So,
then you're in sales all your life.
yeah, so I
Sorry,
was
I
in
always go in
sales.
these
No, it's
tangents, by the
totally
way.
fine. Yeah, no, I was in sales my whole life. My dad is so my dad is like a huge salesman. Like he does sales trains across the world, like Canada, Australia. He's very, very talented. He's been doing it for over 40 years. And so he always kind of instilled that in me. Like the
Mhm.
customer service and how to talk to people and what to say and pretty much just treat people how you want to be treated,
Yeah.
and so that was just always instilled in me. And so I had Zane, and I was just kind of in a point in my life where I'm like, do I go back to school? Like, because I feel like I need something. Like I
Mhm.
feel like when I think you and me were talking about this, when you have a baby, almost like not necessarily a part of you dies, but it kind of does because then
Yeah,
you
there's a grief component.
yeah, you
Yes,
come into
absolutely.
a
An
new
identity
mhm,
component. Mhm.
exactly, and so you come into a new version of yourself where, you can't always do what you wanna do, and you have to make sacrifices day in and day out to put your children first because they're obviously your priority. And so, being such a young mom, I mean, watching my friends, when I'm 21, they're all going out and having, cocktail hours and doing everything they want to do. And then me, I'm like, I have to plan it because I can't just,
Mhm.
go out with you girls, or I can't, I can't go to,
Right.
do regular things like everybody else. Not that I'm saying it's a bad thing, but it was a little rough
It
on
was
me.
just different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was just different,
different
and you were
because
coming of age so you were coming to that age in which the thing like, as everybody else was kind of entering into this adulthood age of, like, just the partying and stuff, you were coming into adulthood age of married and now with a child at that 21
yeah.
years of age, so it was really different paths than your friend
Oh,
different path than what
completely.
your friends
Yeah,
were, yeah.
completely. Because my girlfriends just, I just turned 30, so my girlfriends are just getting married. Some of them have, a baby. Some are on their second baby, and I'm already like ahead of the game. So I'm like, I've already
Mhm.
done all that. So it's kind of funny because now all my girlfriends look at me like a mama hen. They're like, oh, she knows. Glory knows.
Yeah,
you know
let's call her for advice.
exactly.
Let's
Yeah, yeah.
the veteran at the game of motherhood.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was definitely how do I put it? It was definitely a struggle because I was still trying to find something that fulfilled me, not necessarily I was good with my husband and then, obviously my kids, but who glory is, like what fulfills glory.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, yes, you're a wife, yes, you're a mom, but who is glory? Like you started out, as one vessel, right? And so that
Right.
is something that I struggled with for years, just figuring out, am I going to go back to school and get this big career? So that way I could say, hey, I finished school. So what am I going to do? And so Isogenics came into my life in 2018. I believe it was June 2018, late June, through social media, out of all things, through
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. And at the time, I was just like, you know, really into fitness, and I was just like, you know what, like, I'm a mom, but I want to be a hot mom. I want to be fit, and I want to look good, and I want to feel comfortable in my skin. And so I was working out all the time, and I'd post my workout regimens just to show people what I was doing in my everyday life. And somebody from LA reached out to me and was like, oh my gosh, you would be perfect for my company. And I was just like, what is it? Because the first thing you think is like, what do you want me to buy?
Yes,
And
yes.
so it felt different, though. I don't know how to explain it, but like I just felt like this, almost like a tug, like on my heart, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like listen to what this person has to say. So he's a personal trainer in Santa Monica, California. He also knows Medea. He enrolled Medea, which mutual friend of ours.
It
Um,
is. Yes.
and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I got on the phone with him, and I heard him out, and I was just like, I don't necessarily need like this amazing weight loss transformation. I said, because I've been working out. And I said, but you know what? My husband has been struggling with his health, because at the time my husband was, overweight, tired, nutrition completely depleted. And we tried like everything. And I was just like, okay, it's 30-day money back guarantee. Like, just try it. Like, if you don't like it, we'll
Mm-hmm.
get your money back. It's pretty much risk free. So he did it, and in his first month, he lost like 21 pounds, and then it just
Yeah.
kept going. And
I know,
then,
and these guys, by the way, disclaimer, this is like a
yes,
disclaimer
oh
here since
yes,
we're
totally,
talking about our industry. Just yeah, everybody's results are different. It's nutrition.
totally
You know,
different.
your
Yes,
body is the one that yeah, everybody's
yes.
that was not my end result in 30 days, but everybody's results are different based on what their body
Oh
needs. So
yeah,
just a little disclaimer.
incredibly.
We're just to make sure.
I'm
Yeah, so
just
then
sharing a
he had an
story. I'm
amazing
not trying to
result.
sell anything.
No, 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 no,
But
no. I know, but no, but it's good just to say because since we
yes,
mentioned the name of the company, we want to make sure
yes.
we're compliant. So,
Okay,
so he had an amazing
amazing
product experience,
transformation.
yeah.
And then he
And
was
then were you
like,
using the products for energy or
so
anything
this is
like
what's
that too?
cool.
Like,
So, I was thinking like, this is just, one type market thing. And, my husband was like, Glory, if you do this with me, it would just, encourage me more. And it's easier
mhm,
when partners do things together, and just try it.
the
So I was
accountability,
like, all
yeah.
right. So I started taking the products, not necessarily adjusting my diet, but I
Mhm.
noticed that my energy levels were like through the roof. Like, I was able to keep up with my children. I wasn't like wanting a nap in the middle of the day. I wasn't going for the coffee pot midday. And I started leaning out and losing weight in areas that I never thought I was going to lose weight again after having kids. And I was just like, okay, this is good stuff. And
This
so
is awesome. Yeah.
I'm like,
Now, at what point did you discover the community that was part of it?
oh,
Because
this
this
is,
the
yeah,
reason we're talking about our health and wellness company too, you guys,
yeah.
because as I mentioned, that's how I found out about Glory was through this. So this is a big part because that aspect of community is and is still a huge part of this journey of her grief story that we'll touch into in a little bit. So when did you find out that there was yeah this community? So you find out about the products, then you find amazing, you feel amazing, so step into that part.
Yes. Okay. So
The
I
community.
didn't really get into the community. I really just thought it was like products, right?
Hmm.
And so Emily Varvra, which I'm sure you know her, she's pretty amazing. She
Yes.
is
Yeah.
a huge motivational speaker. She's just epic. So she started reaching out to me on Instagram, and she was just like, hey, like, we have mutual friends. And she was just like, I need to get you to an event. And I'm just like, huh? Like, I was like, why? Like, what's the big deal? So she just kept pursuing the relationship, and we started messaging each other, and then we got each other's number. And so finally she's like, well, I see that you're sharing isogenics with your friends, and that's amazing, but I need to get you to an event. So I didn't really know the business or what I was doing. I was just enjoying helping other people
The
feel better
yeah.
you know
You were doing what most people do every single day. They recommend a restaurant, and then you have
Exactly.
no clue how many friends ended up going to that restaurant and how
Exactly.
many friends of your friends ended up going to that restaurant because you told them to.
Yeah,
So that is all we do is we refer people to something we love. So something we could take
exactly.
away that mysticism, but you really had no clue
I
really
had
what you were
no
doing.
clue
You were
what
just
I
like,
was
"Oh."
doing. I had no clue the history about isogenics, the history of the
Yeah.
products. I didn't know. So Medea, um, she finally got me to an event in April of I think it was either April or May of 2019. It was ICU, which is kind of like their university where they really show you the community and the business and the aspect. And so I went not knowing what to expect. And I'm thinking it's going to be like a boring business conference. And it
Mhm.
was completely different. So I go and I'm sitting front row, and Del Rey, I think you
Yes,
had her on a
you
couple
who
of
have
weeks
interview
ago.
yes, we had her.
Yes,
Yes, uh-huh.
it was I believe it was one of her first speaking events. And so she goes up, and I'm just like, okay, what is she going to talk about? And she's talking about her struggles in life and things she's had to overcome to get to where she is now. And it just resonated so much with me, and I remember I was just bawling my eyes out in the front row. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, like I'm crying, hopefully no one thinks I'm weird, but like she
Nope,
just
everybody
spoke.
else is crying probably too.
Yeah,
You're
no,
probably not the
totally.
only one. Yeah.
She just spoke so deeply, like, into my soul, and I could just like relate with her so much. And then Emily gets on stage, and she just like blows down the house, and I am like completely in chills, and I'm crying because just like, how do you say it? You could just feel their energy, and like,
So, and there's a soul aspect in what we do.
yes.
There's a real true soul, and it's a connection that, yeah, it's a connection you feel with people because everybody. Let me just say, I can't say everybody because I don't know everybody, but
Mhm.
everybody I've at least met in our company is people with really high integrity. And just
Oh,
like in any
yes.
other industry, I'm sure that there's people that maybe don't, but people that are drawn to our company are people with amazing integrity and just with
I would just say it's just
soul,
it's
yeah.
it's people that are wanting real genuine life connections.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you could just feel these incredible women, their passion for serving people. It's like,
Yes.
yes, they're getting you on a product, but it's not just about the product. It's like they want to serve you and see you become the best version of yourself. And so
Yes,
that is
it's about
what's
empowering others.
empowering.
It's about
And like Emily
empowering
says,
others.
like,
Yes.
if you're becoming 1% better every day, just 1%, then you're in the right direction. um
Correct.
and yeah, I mean,
Uh,
so that's just the type of things that they just poured into me that weekend. And I got to meet Jim Jim and Kathy Coover just walking around the
the
hotel.
owners of our
I
company. Yeah.
had no idea they were the owners of $1 billion company. I'm just like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, I saw your photo on the magazine, you know no idea, no
Which
idea.
is better. It's actually better when you don't know who you're meeting because
Exactly.
then you actually act like a person.
Yeah.
You don't act like you
So that's what's funny, is because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you met the owners, and oh my gosh, you have your photo with this person and that person." I'm like, "Huh?" Like, I had no idea. You know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh, okay."
You're like, "I just met people, that's all I met." So
Yeah.
now this aspect of community, and again, like, how I found out about you was through a post of Emily Vavra because she had posted something, I think, of your daughter, Cassidy, who we're gonna talk about a little bit today, is not a little bit, that's really the main reason we are on this conversation on this podcast today. But sharing even just our compensation plan, she's like what, 5, I think, in
Yeah.
like a video or something, sharing our
Yeah.
and it's just like showing the her heart. So So Cassidy passed away, and it was
Yeah.
October, you
It was
said? Okay.
October 14th. So on this Sunday, it'll be 45 weeks. Yeah.
And this is something when I was talking to you in the pre-interview that struck me, because I was talking to you and your husband Christian was sitting there too,
Hmm.
and how you guys said the weeks, and in that moment I got, and I'm getting them again. Hold
Hmm.
on. I got to document my chills. I take a picture every single time. I'm getting them
No.
again. Here they are. My I don't yeah, I just took them. When you guys said that, something in my soul just like, oh, because how you guys said the weeks, just, and we talked about this similarity of mentioning the weeks since her passing, kind of like how we know how many weeks
Yeah.
we're pregnant. And
Hmm.
that just struck me. Okay, my even my legs now. Goodness gracious, I should have shaved. I should have shaved because now my legs are also all goosebumps. Um, and by the way, I enter these kind of little moments of sometimes lightheartedness in these conversations, because talking about grief and death is not something that is easy.
No.
So interjecting sometimes things of humor, people listening, and even for you, just it just kind of brings us a little bit more at ease in moments like this that are hard to talk. So yeah, so that just like resonated so much with me, and it moved me when I heard you guys mention the number of weeks that had been since she had passed away. And so she was 5 years old um, when she died.
Yeah, she was 5.5. She was I mean, her birthday was this past June, so she's June 1414 is when she
She
was
would have been
born.
6.
Yeah, she would have
She would
been
have been
6.
6 this
Yeah.
this summer.
Mhm.
Um, so we were probably going to talk more a little bit about all the little things that happened that people showed also grace and and a lot of compassion in your process. And there were some differences a little bit of when we talked before, of how there were aspects that were not showing too much compassion in this whole process too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about when you heard the news? You were, and we don't have to say the name of the cruise line, but
Oh, yeah.
you were you were on a cruise when you and your husband were on a cruise ship, about to get on a cruise ship, when you got the news that she was in the hospital. And
Yeah.
go from that point of what happened with
Yeah.
I it's just because it just mind boggling. So go ahead, I'll
So we'll
take it
just
all, take
we'll
over,
just
Glory,
fast
whatever
forward a
you want to
little
start.
bit. So that was in
Yes, go ahead, fast
April,
forward.
and during that
Hmm.
time I really started diving into the business, and I love the thing about children is they really do watch everything you do.
Hmm.
But out of all my children, Cassidy was the most hands on with everything I did. Like, she would watch videos with me, she would learn about nutrition with me. And so we went to another event, which was Celebration. That was in August, and I was just, flying high right there on life.
Hmm.
And we came back, and I remember we took the kids to is it Moral Bay? Moral Bay. Yeah, we took them to the beach, and then we took them to the aquarium, and then school was about to start, so she just started kindergarten. And then we were doing so amazing with isogenics. We were having events, and Emily, hosted an event for us, and it was just, our team was just on fire. And during that time, I'll just say this now, like, Emily
Hmm.
and Cassidy, I'm probably gonna cry. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
They
The
they've
type of
really
the
bonded.
relationship. Hmm.
Oh, it was like a little version of Emily, like really truly like a little version. Um, they were like two peas in a pod. Like, it's so cute because I've had friends that have been in Cassidy's life since she was little. And one of my friends, her name's Jen, and she told Emily the story at Cassidy's funeral, and she said, she's like, I was her favorite auntie. And one day I said, Cassidy, who is your favorite auntie? And she's like, Emily is. And she's like, you've only known her for like 4 months and she's your favorite. She's just like, I'm sorry, but she is. And it's funny because, they're just, children are so honest. And
Yeah,
so
they are. Yeah.
just watching Emily and Cassie together in their relationship, it was just so cute, like they were just, I mean, they're both born in the
Mm.
same month, so they're both, I don't know if you believe
They're
it, both
kindred
Gemini's.
spirits. Yeah, they're
Um, yes, kindred spirits, exactly. I mean, they both love girly
yeah,
stuff,
yeah. Mhm.
makeup, everything. She used to have Emily, she'd be like, "Can I have some of your lip gloss?" And Emily would give her some. She's like, "No, more, more, more." And she'd be like, "Girl, if I put any more, your face is gonna be dripping with lip gloss." you know. But they are so much alike. So all that was happening, leading up to this event, right? And so our
Mhm.
anniversary, like I was saying, September 12th, my husband, with his cousins, because his cousins are super cool. They do isogenics with us, so it's kind of fun. And
Mhm.
so we all planned a cruise to Mexico. And so, gosh, I remember that morning because I know he got up early with her, and he was cuddling her, and I'm stressed out because his cousin showed up early, and I'm like, we gotta go, so we're throwing stuff, and I just remember Cassidy crying, and she's just like, I really, really don't want you guys to go.
Mm.
And I remember he like kissed her, and I kissed her, and I was just like, we always come back, like we won't be gone long, because it was just a short turnaround cruise. And we left, and on the way up, we have cameras, and we were watching her, and her brother on the cameras, and it was so cute.
Mm.
Um, and so anyway, so we're on the cruise. We probably are like an hour, maybe 2 hours out to sea, and my phone rings, and it's a lady that has been with us for about 5 years. She called, but it wasn't her. It was Clovis Police Department, and they say, there's been an incident in your home, and I instantly just like gulped. Like, I was like, wait, what? And she was like, your daughter drowned in a bathtub. And I'm like, wait, what? And there's no pulse. And I just remember like dropping to my knees, and I threw the phone at Christian, and I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Mhm.
And he grabs the phone, and she says, well, we don't really know what happened. We just know that she drowned in the bathtub. We have no pulse right now. They're working on her. They're trying to revive her. And I'm just thinking in my mind, like, how could this like happen? Like,
Mhm.
what? you know and
You just left your home.
we just
You had
left our
just
home.
left.
We
Yeah.
weren't even gone
Mhm.
like 4, maybe 5 hours, if that.
Mhm.
And so I instantly, I'm like, I gotta get off this boat. I gotta get off this boat. I gotta get off this boat. I need to be with my baby. And so we go down, we dial like the 911 emergency number or whatever. And they're like, well, you need to go down to customer service. I'm like, customer service.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm in, the grand hall room on this cruise ship, crying my eyes out, begging for pretty much mercy to get off this boat. And they were just like, here, we'll give you free phone service so you can make calls off the boat. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that was nice.
that was nice. I
I'm
will give
saying
that.
it
I
sarcastically.
I mean,
I'm kind of saying it sarcastically, by the way, after
the
like,
poor
yeah, that
guy,
was like,
literally, I remember him, like, he was crying. He's like, this is like, here,
yeah,
just take this. Like,
just use. Yeah.
I'm trying.
That was,
Like, I said, please let me talk to the captain. Please let me talk to the person underneath the captain. Please let me talk to somebody in charge. And they were like, no, unless it's like you're bleeding out or an accident, or we can't do anything for you. We can't get the Coast Guard out here. All this crap.
mm,
And I just looked at Christian, and I was like, I'm jumping off the boat. And he was like, no, you're not. And I'm like, if I jump off this boat, guess what they're going to do? Call the Coast Guard. They're going to come save me.
then that's
Where
when you'll be able to get, yeah, that's when
exactly.
you're able to get to
And
where you need to
he
get
was,
to
and
at
then
that
he was
moment.
just
Yeah.
like, no, you need to I need you. I can't lose you,
Mm.
And so
How
Um,
long was that ti do you remember? I know time is very is this is what I've noticed anytime I interview people and I ask how long was it? And time is so and even for myself when I've
so
experienced moments of grief, that things seem like forever and maybe it was only 15 minutes. So, how long did it take for somebody to listen to you?
Oh, it was like 30 minutes for sure.
Oh,
And
yeah. No, and
I
which
don't mean
felt
that in a
like
bad way. I
what?
just mean that like
Yeah,
people on the cruise ship were coming up to me
yeah,
and saying, "Help this woman." Like if
yeah,
other people are noticing and they're like
yes.
disturbed by like what's going on, it's like, "Come
Mhm,
on, you have me in a hallway." I mean, not a hallway, a grand hallway where everyone's at, crying my
mhm,
eyes out, so I called my dad. So once I got the phone, because my phone wasn't working anymore, which I feel like was the grace of God that my phone even rang because no one
mhm,
had satellite service except for my phone, which is crazy.
mm, mm.
And so I got a hold of my dad. And I said, I need you to be me. I need you to go make the decisions on my behalf because I know that you can get it done. Like mentally, my dad, if something goes bad, I call my dad because my
He's the
dad's just
person. He's the
he's
person.
very
Mhm,
good at staying level headed in like extreme situations.
mm,
So
mhm.
my dad calls me. He's like, they got a pulse. They worked on her. They got her, they got her heart going. But we didn't really know how bad it was. We had no idea because no one was telling us anything. And so um, we are just tossing and turning because the cruise ship's like, well, we'll let you off in the morning at Catalina Island, which is like a little island off of LA. We'll let you off in the morning, with everybody else. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like you drop the anchor at 5 in the morning and you can't take a little boat out for us to get us off first. Like it was
Mhm.
ridiculous. So the whole night we're up. Christian's sick to his stomach. That's my husband. He's sick to his
Ugh.
stomach. I'm like literally having an anxiety attack. And then the only thing that kept me like peace was like podcasts, like sermons. And so I just put in my earbuds and I was just listening to sermons. And I was like, I remember I had like my arm, I was like holding myself, like arms around me, holding myself, like hugging myself, and just like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. And my husband, he was stressing out because he was like, okay, we're gonna get to Catalina, then we got to get a boat back to LA. And so we were all stressing out. We're like, by the time we get there, it's gonna be the next day. And
That would
so
have been like 2 days after
yeah,
like, at that moment, it'd be 2
so
days after you got the call. Yeah.
exactly. So we started praying, and he's like, I need to call my friend Justin, who's a pilot. I was like, do it. So he kept calling and calling and calling. He wasn't answering. And so finally, he said, he told us that he felt in the pit of his stomach something say, like, go pick up the phone. And so he picked
Mm,
up the phone, and it was Christian. And he told him, and he's like, I'm going to call the owners of my pilot company that he flies their jets and say, hey, this is a situation. Can you help me help this family? So 5 minutes, he calls back and he's like, my boss gave it a go. Like, I will come and pick you guys up first thing in the morning on Catalina Island and be ready. And so that was that. I still call him my Superman. I'm like, you're like a hero, always in my eyes for
yeah,
doing
and
that.
this is a small business. This is a
Correct.
small business, a friend, a small business that took the time to do that. And so here's those contrasting components, right? That kind of
Hmm.
happen in in this really hard moment, a moment of kind of being like, okay, we'll go to customer service type of
Yeah. So
thing.
it was
And
kind of like,
here's free cell phone, free calls,
yeah.
which okay, that was but contrasting to
But I
somebody
think that's
just
the
jumping on
difference
an
too, is
airplane. Yeah.
it's here's a small business and they normally charge like $5,000 for a trip like that.
Hmm.
And then you have, a probably $1 billion company, right? I don't even mind
Yeah.
saying it. They already know.
Oh,
Carnival. Like I don't even mind saying
I'm
it.
sorry.
So you know what I'm saying? Like you have a
Because
billion
you've already
dollar
said
company, right? And it's like you would think that they'd be like, yeah, we could lose some money and go back. We could afford to go back to be decent to these people that literally had the worst call of their life and the worst situation that could possibly happen to a person. Is like literally stranded out at sea is literally what happened to us. And then you have a small company that's like, no, let's do the right thing and let's go and get this family And we were thinking that we were going to get charged, and they sent us a bill, but they waived all of it. And it
Mm.
says it in the
But
thing.
on the flip side, you had to pay to get off the
Oh,
boat
yes.
when you did, which you were able to get that settled. I think, like, going aside from the fact that it's a company, I think it just in general, I think it has to do with the fact that so many different people have to be reached in a bigger company sometimes,
Yeah.
like, oh, talk to this person, and then that person has
Yeah.
to talk to their person, and that, while in a smaller company, you have like authority to just decide right away, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of that aspect of, and it could have been any other, maybe any other cruise line, that would have
Yeah.
maybe same thing. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. This is just this particular experience, but that aspect of how many people you have to reach in order to get something
Oh,
done,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
I think that's
that's
what
the little
kinda
bit of that
stunk,
contrast.
like, it not stunk, but, like, stinked is it was like, they wouldn't even let us go above customer service. Like, they were like, "Nope, nope,
Hmm.
nope, you're not important." Like, and I think that was kinda where I was just like, "Okay, where's the human compassion here?" Like, I get it, but if you were in my shoes, and I asked them this, "If you were in my shoes, what would you do?" And they're like, "We can't do anything." I was just like, "Okay." Like,
Hmm.
I tried
Yeah.
to, like, get a little empathy from them. So the next
Right.
morning, right before we get off, they're like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You have to pay 800 and she has to pay 800 to literally get
To
off the
just get
cruise."
off
And
yeah.
I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's a debarking fee." And I'm like, "Are
Fee.
you kidding me right now?" Like, you
This
know?
this information is important, by the way. This is
It
information
is,
super important because people need to know that if you really are stranded in sea, these are the kind of hoops you have to jump through to
just to
be
get off.
able
Mhm.
to get off. So
Yeah.
if in case of emergency you need to get off, these would be the kind of steps you'd have to do. So
Yeah,
this is
so always
valuable
have
information.
extra
Isn't
money
Yeah.
or a credit card, because
Yes.
thank God we had a credit card that had money on it, or they wouldn't have let
Mhm.
us off, which is
Right.
mind-blowing to me. So, we
Yeah.
paid
Well, you
that.
have this emergency to go to, you yourself were not bleeding, but you
Yeah,
had an emergency to attend.
yeah,
So you get Catalina, you get flown, you get home, and
yeah,
then
so that was
you
the
get to the
story.
hospital.
We literally get off the boat, we had to drive 45 minutes up to the toppest mountain on Catalina. And then it was so scary. I kid you not. It was probably like a mile long strip, and you literally fly off the mountain. Oh my gosh. Don't recommend
It's
it.
like so it's
Don't
kind of like
recommend it.
doing the what is it called? Gliding, the
Yeah.
air, like
Oh,
when
yeah.
you glide, kind of like that. Is that
Mhm.
how it
It's
felt?
literally like you're flying off a mountain in the middle of
Yes, yeah,
a
yeah,
jungle
like
or
but the
something.
airplane, but on the
Yes.
airplane.
Yes. So I'm just like, oh my gosh. I remember I was just praying. I was like, "God, please don't kill me." Like, because it was just a
Oh
little sketchy.
gosh.
I'm not gonna lie. It was a
Yeah,
little sketchy.
yeah, yeah.
So, we made it home, and, my dad's best friend, Tim, um, he's like my second dad. I love him. Picks us up, drives us, he's driving us to the hospital. And finally, because the doctors have been like wanting to talk to us, but they kind of knew where we were, but they were just frustrated because they wanted to make, they wanted to make moves, and they couldn't do it without our consent. And
Mm,
so we got there, and I remember him, "I need to talk to you guys, Dr. Vargas." I love him so much. And he pulls up her brain scans, and he's like, "What do you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't see anything." And he said,
mm,
"Unfortunately, she was left too long without oxygen and too long underneath the water, um, that there's no life there." And I remember just crying, and I pushed away the screen. And I was like, "Nope." And he's like, "No, we should just call it today." And I was like, "Absolutely not." And I said, um, "I'm not doing that." I said, "I'm not." And he's like, "Okay, well, we can wait for the swelling to go down, and then we'll check again, in 48 hours. He said, "Okay." And so I just remember just thinking, like, this can't be my life right now. This can't be me. You hear of people going through crazy
yeah.
stories like this, but
Surreal.
you
It's
never
surreal.
think it
Yeah.
would be you. Yeah, you never
Mhm.
think that's gonna
And
be
this
me.
is Right, and this is the thing for any parent listening. I mean, the fact that it was something that our children do every single day, which is take
Mhm.
a bath or take a shower. It
Correct.
was something in as simple as a bath,
Yeah.
um, that this incident happened, and it's the things that just don't, like, we just don't think that,
Mhm.
that it could happen. So, everything right now is just surreal in this moment for you as you were
Oh,
hearing this news.
completely.
It was still yeah.
And, I didn't know what exactly happened because at that time
Mhm.
I can only process so much. You know, your
Right.
your
And and
your
and in
body
that moment,
almost,
really
yeah,
yeah,
goes into
you
like a
can't really
thinking
even go
mode,
into that.
and you almost can only take so much information at a time, process so much. I feel like if you processed all of it, you would just almost like crash, right? And
Yes,
so,
yes.
I
It's a
just
protective
remember
mechanism.
thinking, how could this happen? This is the woman watching our children, and mind you, our parents aren't really hands on like grandparents. Christian's parents watch them when they can, but they're older. They're like in their 70s. And so they can't watch them as much as, like, say, like, a mid 20s nanny, right? And so
Mhm.
this woman, was like family to us. Like, our kids loved her so much. And she, was with them since they were like babies. And I just couldn't understand how this could happen, you
Mhm.
know? Um, and so I didn't, as time progressed, I believe in God, and I just kept praying for a miracle up until like the very last minute. I never let my faith be shaken. Um,
Mm.
and I just held on to, like, okay, God, I believe you're the God of miracles, because I've seen miracles in my life. Um, as a child, I'll just tell you, this is a true story. As a child, when I was 6 years old, my mom ran over like my dog that I had since I was like
Oh.
2, and in a Trailblazer, which is like a SUV. And she didn't mean to do it, but she did, and she, not one wheel but two wheels, ran her over, and because she
Wow.
didn't see her. And I remember getting in the car, and I ran, and I saw her laying there, and I started crying. And my dad just said, "Okay, Glory, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna start praying." So I remember I like put my hands on this dog, and I started praying. I'm like, "God, this dog means so much to me. Please save my dog." And we took the dog to the vet, and I remember praying. I'm like, "God, please don't let her have like one broken bone." Like, and she wasn't moving, like barely breathing, right? And
Mm.
so we take her to the emergency vet, and she was a Shelton, or she was a collie, a miniature collie, super cute.
Mhm.
Keisha was her name. And the vet said, pulled my parents aside, and they said, "Hey, you need to embrace her because this dog's probably not going to make it."
Mm.
And um, and so about 4 in the morning, the phone starts ringing. The old school phones where it's like ring, ring,
Mhm.
wakes up the whole household.
I was
You
just
know,
that's what I wait, it's still old school for you, and you're, like, 14 years
Well,
younger
now
than I am,
people
and it
are
was
like,
still old
"What's a
school?
landline?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Okay, so
Okay, so at least I don't feel too old, the fact that I'm talking to somebody that knows what the "bring,
yeah,
bring"
so
it
it
sounds
wakes up
like.
the whole household, and it's the vet, and she said, "I don't understand what is going on." She's like, "I have 4 sets of X-rays, and your dog doesn't have one broken bone." And she's like, and she's walking, and she's breathing, and it's like nothing happened to her. And I knew that, like, God saved my dog. Like, there's no
Mm.
way I physically saw her got ran over. There's no way a dog would survive that and not have one broken bone. So I literally, to this day, still have the X-rays, because the people are like, "Yeah, whatever." I'm like, "No, I have physical proof." you know. And so I just remember, like, in my mind during that time with Kassidy in the hospital, I was just like, "Okay, God, like, that that was a dog that meant the world to me, and this is my child that means more to me than anything in the world." And so that's why, through everything, everyone said she's not going to wake up, it's not going to happen. I just held on to my faith and I just stood my ground, which I think, you know, no matter what the outcome comes, whether you get what you want or you get what you don't, I think the thing is we got to realize is that we still have to have faith in whatever you believe in. You still have to have faith in that source, and mine is obviously God. And don't be shaken by what anyone else tells you or by what your eyes physically see, right? And so that to me was just something that my faith grew so much in that time in the hospital, the 2 weeks I was able to spend with her, which I'm so gracious for, because I was able to sing to her and hold her. My husband was able to sleep with her every night, and we got that time with her that most parents don't get, or if you lose a loved one in an accident or whatever, it's instant. You don't get that, and so we got that time in the hospital with her, even though she was sleeping. We still, we got that. And so
Oh, what a
so
blessing. And that's the thing. It's God, those are little mercies. And even
yeah.
though, it was different than what you would have wanted, it still was feeling God's love in some way because
Oh
you got
yeah.
those
And
2
then
weeks with
I
her.
think the other thing too is, kind of what how you heard about my story, right? So I
Mhm.
remember Emily, she was in Chicago with her best friend, Holly DeMont. And I didn't want to ruin her vacation, but I called her and I had to tell her. And I said, look, this is what's going on. Um, and I don't know if you can be here or not, but this is what's going on. And so she started asking for prayer for her. And the next day she called me. She's like, I'm coming. She's like, I have to be
Mm.
with baby girl. And so she
And
stayed.
this is somebody you had known only for a period since April.
Yeah,
You
less
had
than
only
six
from
months. I mean,
less,
physically,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
physical.
so
Hmm.
she came, and Hayden too. I don't know if you know Hayden Barbara. He came too,
Yes.
and they brought me food, and they helped feed my dogs and checked on my kids, and they were just like, whatever you need, like, we're here, you know. Um, and uh, and then corporate Isogenics, and this is just, I love our company because even though it's $1 billion company, it's family owned, and so this just shows the morals and the integrity of our company. They heard about what happened, and through DoorDash they were sending me food and flowers and chocolates and like handwritten notes, just saying how much they love us and that they're praying for us. And that meant so much to me because I'm like, you know, they don't have to do that, but they cared. They cared enough to send flowers, and they cared enough to send chocolate and food, and just to make sure that, like, that we were, okay and taking care of ourselves. And then just the isogenics community, like, I had people from England and Australia and Canada and in all these other countries that Isogenics is in, reaching out to me with these powerful, like, prayers and uplifting messages. And I've never in my life have felt so much love and compassion that I tell people all the time that, my heart in those moments was so broken, so broken. And during that time, everyone's love and compassion and prayers and just reaching out to me was like keeping my heart together. And it came down to the last test, because the doctors, they told me, look, there's nothing we can do. And I said, I am not doing what you are asking me to do unless you do every single test, because if you want me to be able to sleep at night and put my head on a pillow, I said, you have to do every test possible. And so they did every test possible, and it came down to, you either take her off life support on your terms, or the state's going to come in and do it for you. And that's
Because
where,
there's a statute, right?
yeah,
There's
there's
a certain
laws
amount
and
of,
regulations where
yes,
the law
about it.
is in most
Hmm.
states except for New Jersey, it's a safety state. That if they say that you're clinically brain dead, not once but twice, then there's a
Mhm.
time period that you get, and then if you go past that time period, then they come in and they pretty
They're
much
the ones
take
that make
your
the
loved
decision.
one from you. Yeah, they
Mhm.
take all your rights away. They kick you out with hospital security, you name it.
Oh,
It's
wow.
ugly. Yeah. And so I just figured, so sad. She was born on June 14th. I figured she might as well leave on October 14th.
Mm.
And so that's the day we decided to do it. And it was beautiful. We painted her nails, and one of my really good friends, baby sister, she's Catholic, and so she got this holy water from this beautiful chapel in France, and
Mhm.
we bathed her in it, and we pretty much prepped her and everything. We did her hair and all pretty the way she liked it, and we put one of her favorite Minnie Mouse dresses on her, and yeah, she loved
Oh,
Minnie. Um,
this is so beautiful.
and
So
coming down
beautiful.
to the
So
moment, I didn't know what to expect. I was
mhm.
really really scared because I'm like, I think I'm gonna lose it, but I knew I didn't want to be alone, and so a lot of people don't know this, but Emily was in there, and Hayden was in there, and my mom and my dad and Christian's parents were in there. And the reason why I had like Emily and Hayden in there, because even though I only knew them for such a short amount of time, like that is like my family, and they're like my
Mhm.
family for life. Um,
And they were so bonded to Cassidy that you knew that it would be also important not only for her, but even just for probably even Emily's own healing, grief journey to be in
well, I
that
mean, she
there
was
in that
like
moment.
praying. I mean, these people
Yeah.
were like praying with me day in and day
Mhm.
out, and if I, Emily and Hayden would be like, okay, like go home, take a shower, just try to get some sleep, and they would watch Cassidy for me because I had
Mhm.
anxiety about leaving her, and
Mhm.
so they would watch her as I would go home and freshen up and try to take like a power nap just to kind of revive. Um, and so leading up to that night, it was early. I was actually early in the morning. It was probably like 4:30 in the morning when everything happened. Because the hospital said the best time to do it is when no one's really there. So they're saying
Mm.
around
It's more
4:30. Yeah,
quiet.
it's more quiet. It's more peaceful. And so we're just playing peaceful music, and Christian got in the bed to hold her because he asked if he could, um, and I was just holding her hand, and they were explaining what they were doing as they're turning the machines off and stuff. And I just remember praying, and everyone's praying, and I was telling you earlier the pre-interview, but I just
Mhm.
remember like so much peace coming over my body, and
Can you please describe? Yes, because that was this another thing that I could relate to so well when
yeah.
you shared with me. Can you please share how it was that it felt for you in that moment?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
yeah.
it so I just remember praying, and in the Bible it talks about a peace which passes all understanding, which means it doesn't make sense. Like you can't explain what you feel. And so the best I could explain it is that I felt so much warmth and so much love that it almost was like numbing to my body, where I felt like I could roll up in a ball and go to sleep in that room, in that moment, with everything going on. Like I just felt so much peace, and I was calm and centered, and I just remember like, wow, like I can breathe and I feel good. Like what is this? And that's why, I knew where Cassidy went. I felt It's almost like I felt them usher her in, you know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
felt that
Mhm.
presence there, and it was the best feeling I've ever experienced in my life. And
It's
yeah,
that's just the it's just such a because to put it in those words and to be able to feel it, it just shifts everything, right? It just shifts that whole
everything.
and you mentioned even in our conversation that now you're not afraid of
I'm not afraid of death anymore,
the
which is so crazy because
yeah.
as a child, like you watch movies and stuff, right? And then you see, your grandparents pass away and you see people lose loved ones and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like the unknown is so scary." And then it's like you don't know what to expect and it's like I remember my thing in the back of my mind, if someone asked me what's your biggest fear, I would have said death. 100%. But now I look at life so differently and I live my life so differently now where it's like, you know what, like if someone doesn't want to be my friend, I'm not losing sleep over it, or you know what I mean. Or if someone's like, you should live your life like this, I'm like, no, I'm going to live my life the way that I want to live my life. And I'm not necessarily like in an ignorant way, but I'm going to live my life to the fullest where I feel like what I'm doing with my life is fulfilling and it's inspiring and it's full of passion and I have integrity and kindness and love. I love deeper and I forgive more and I just look at life so differently now. And it's almost like it's it's a blessing, but then you know how they say it's like a blessing and a curse. Like it's it's
Hmm.
it's it's sweet and sour. Like the sour part is yes, I lost my beautiful daughter, but she's in another life now, a life that I know she's protected. I know that she's safe. I know that she's happy. And I still get little
You feel her.
messages from her. And
You feel her. Yeah, you know her.
I
Yeah.
still feel her, and so it's like I almost, in certain situations feel her more now than I did when she was physically here. Um,
Yes, yes. It's just so it's like everything you're saying. I'm here
and
so moved
a
because
beautiful
it is just I
yeah,
can relate. It's like you're like, "Wait, I don't even have to pick up a phone. I just can
yeah,
just completely connect
exactly.
with, with them." For me it's a them because it's more than one person in my life, but that I have to connect
Yeah.
with spiritually. But that, oh, it's just so, can you share the little anecdote of the tattoo,
Yes,
of your
okay.
husband's
So,
tattoo?
another really cool thing someone told me is that when you lose a loved one that you're so close to, that is your direct line to heaven. And I thought that was
Hmm.
so beautiful because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have like a direct line to heaven, and that's where all my loved ones are, and that's where I believe God is. And that's like a direct line, which is so powerful, you know. But Kassidy, so when Presley was born, Christian got a tattoo of our firstborn, Presley's name there. And Kassidy was like, as she got older, she's like, where's my name? Like, where's my name? She's just like, why is my
I
name not there? And she would get so upset. So for her fifth birthday, Christian got her name tatted with a rose, which is her birth flower of June. And the artist said, you really should put like two hummingbirds on your chest, one resembling you and one resembling your wife, because you have your kids' names there with their birth flowers, and it would just be beautiful. So he did. And but the hummingbirds he did on his chest, they specifically have red breast paint on their chest, so they're a specific type of hummingbird. And
Mhm.
so the day that she passed, and where I live in the city, so hummingbirds are a little rare to see. The day that she passed, a hummingbird, we're out in the yard, crying, thinking about her. A hummingbird just appeared and started like flying in the front yard and then just shot straight up into the sky and completely disappeared. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that was Cassidy. And
Yeah.
little incidents like that still occur. Um, you know, Disneyland was like our favorite place to go with her. Um, like she was all Minnie Mouse. That girl loved Minnie
That's
Mouse.
good.
And
Yeah, well, you mentioned if you'd put the Minnie Mouse dress on
yes,
her.
yes. So she loved Minnie Mouse, and I remember going to Disneyland, and I saw the mascot, and I think you and me were talking about healing moments for me, and
Yes.
I I was nervous to go up to a mascot, because it reminded me so much of her, and I remember in the park just bawling my eyes out on Minnie Mouse. you know, she just a mouse reminded me so much of my daughter. And the mascot lady was just like, I'm so sorry, and she's not supposed to talk, but she did, which just shows another thing,
The
the
compassion.
compassion that people
Yes.
have. And anyways, leaving the park, it was rainy, it was kind of gloomy. and this I'm literally walking down like Main Street where there's people everywhere, and a hummingbird
Mm.
flies straight across my face, like straight across my face into this garden. And I kind of followed it because I caught my eye so much. I mean, it flew across my face, and it was a red breasted hummingbird. And so it
Mm.
just kind of flew around. And normally they don't come out in the rain or around crowds. And it just kind of hovered there for a little bit. And I started talking to it. And I remember saying, "Hi, Cassidy, I love you. I missed you." And
Mm.
in that moment, then it just went straight up to the sky and disappeared. But I
Yeah.
still
It's
see hummingbirds, and it's beautiful.
it's beautiful because yeah, we were talking about these little signs and how signs can be whatever we want them to be, and it's
Mhm.
for us that are in a mourning process, grieving, those little signs mean so much because they're like little taps on the shoulder, like that
Yes.
we feel that are
Yes.
little messages of our loved one letting us know they're okay. And it just feels
Yeah.
so comforting to have those moments and just helps our own, grief and our yeah, and
Yeah.
our sadness in that moment to kind of shift it a little bit and to feel gratefulness and in
Oh,
that
yeah.
moment. So thank you so much for
100%.
sharing that. Now, so some of the tools then, yeah, you've used then in this journey that you're gonna navigate forever because it will not
Mhm.
go away. This journey of grief have
Oh, no.
been
Yeah.
then the friendships that you have, family, um, your faith in God, that aspect of faith. What other things do you do every day to just even get out of bed? What other things help you in your day to day or to help you in this grieving process?
Um, I guess I would definitely say having other children definitely helps 100%, because I want to show them that, circle of life, you just never know, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I tell people all the time, because they're like, "How do you still believe in God? How do you not hate God for that happening?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. Like, God doesn't
Mhm.
want bad things to happen to his people." And I said, we live in a tainted world, so it's almost like you're walking on eggshells. You just never know, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you're never guaranteed tomorrow. You're just never not. And so, with my children, I want them to know that, like, don't live your life in fear, obviously, but live every day to your fullest, and love more, and be present in, conversations and events. And so every day when I wake up, I I have I actually have a couple photos of her when I wake up next to my bedside, with my vision board, and then, my dreams and ambitions, because I just look at it as like, I'm gonna get all these goals, I'm gonna get all these visions, but I'll always make sure that she's with me through that, so that she can also experience that with me. And so every day I'm like, okay, like, whose life am I going to touch today? Or how can I
Mhm.
change someone's life? Or how can I, reach out to somebody and let them know there's somebody there for you to talk to? There's somebody there that loves you. And that's just kind of what I do every day, and
Beautiful.
this company has changed my life. It truly has. And honestly, I could truly say, if I did not have Isogenics, I do not know where I would be right now. Because in my darkest moments, this company was there for me. People from all over the world were there for me. And they really put my faith back in humanity. Um, and, when you first saw me back in January, um,
Yes, when you on stage and that you
on
please
stage.
share why this was so important. Mhm.
So after Cassidy passed away, like I was telling you, she was very hands-on in isogenics, and they have this beautiful award which people in the company vote for, you know, um, called the Heart of Isogenics, and she got nominated. Obviously, I received it on her behalf, but
Mhm.
her name was specifically nominated.
Mhm.
And the things that people I got to actually see some of them. Headquarters emailed me some of the things that people wrote about me. The things that people wrote, about our family, and just the love and the outpour was so beautiful. That the lady that was tallying the votes told me that every day she'd like have to take a break because she would just lose it in front of her computer because she was like, it was so
Just reading all
beautiful.
these messages,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was just like,
Everything's so moving.
they were so beautiful. And I didn't know if we were gonna win or not, you know, but just
Mhm.
seeing Cassidy's videos and her pictures and everything that they put together, this beautiful little video for her to show in front of, I think there was like 4,000 people there, not including all the people that were watching
Online.
online in all the different
Mhm.
countries, you know, just to show them her. Um,
Mm.
meant so much to me. And then when I won, um, to be able to thank the Cougars for this opportunity, and to be able to thank, Cal, he's in charge of the Pacific region where I'm at, thank you for loving me during this time, and really being our support, and holding us up during this time. Um, because it truly was isogenics, more than anything, that literally was holding our family up. Um,
And this is not even, we're not even talking about the financial component here,
no,
people.
I'm
Like,
talking about the
this is all
community.
about the emotional. Yes,
Yeah.
just because that is just, there's no words to that. Like, money can't
No,
buy
exactly. Money
that kind of,
cannot buy the
money can't buy
community
that.
that we
No,
have.
no,
And that
no.
is that is why people stay. Is yes, the products
Yes.
are awesome. They're
Kevin.
cool. They're great. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
the
We know that. But
people, you cannot put a price on that. I mean, I have friends in like England, I have friends in Australia that aren't even like financially connected to me, but they're like my people, and
mhm.
even like Del Rey. And I just made a really great new friend, Casey Tom. I don't know if you heard of her, but
I
these
haven't. No, but I'll look for
women
her.
inspire me and uplift me, and they know when I'm in a funk, because grief, you
Mhm.
have your waves, and I don't mean
Oh, yeah.
necessarily waves, but there's some days where you just feel like you're in a funk, and certain women in the isogenics community will be like, Glory, I feel your spirit. What's going on? I'm
Mhm.
checking in on you. And
Mhm.
that to me means everything, because it's like they're all over the world, but they're like connected to me on like a soul level, which is
Mm.
so 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 beautiful. And
Oh,
so
this is
that award,
so good. Yeah, that means so much. Yeah,
so
that
much.
and I that's what and I was bawling because I had seen when Emily posted when Cassidy had passed away, and that it had just moved me. And I actually reached, I was one of those people that I'm like, she tagged, in that moment, she tagged your husband and you. And
Yeah.
I, at that moment, I ended up reaching out, was messaging your husband and not you, because I didn't even know what to say to you that
Oh
personally.
yeah.
Like, I didn't even know, like in that moment, you're so bombarded. So I messaged on Instagram and I just said, if you guys need any resources for anything, just there's organizations, for if you need support with the kids and stuff,
Yeah.
to be able to have that. So because and so if that was just me reach, I can just imagine how bombarded you
Oh,
guys were
but
with messages
even
of
though,
comfort.
and that's what I tell people too, I'm like, we got so many messages, but they were all like received. They were they were
Mm,
they all went to healing our heart. And that's I remember they were interviewing me after I won the award, and I said, "Look, I know you get a box of products, but it's what you don't get in that box.
mhm.
You can't price it." And I
No.
said, "You can't even fit it in a box." And the lady's like crying as I'm telling her this, and I'm just like,
I-
"This company like is my life. Like this company is what keeps me going. And I've met some people that I know will always be my lifelong friends. And it's it's like I was saying earlier, sweet and sour. It's like I lost my baby girl physically, but I've gained so many more family members, and I really call these people my family. I've gained so many more family members that, even though we're not blood, no, they're my family.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they support me, and they uplift me, and they inspire me to be a better person. And they always tell me, Cassidy's watching you,
Mhm.
everything you're doing. She sees everything, and she's proud of her mommy. And these are the type of messages they send me. And it's so beautiful. It's so
So it's
beautiful.
that's been one of the biggest things for you then, is just having that support that has really helped you, and also knowing that you have a way of helping somebody else, that you have a vehicle to help somebody else make their life a little bit better, or
Yes.
those are the kind of things that keep you going
Yes. And so
every
it
day. And then your
yeah.
children, showing them, and you cry in front of them, you show them the
I show them,
emotions
yeah,
too
I
that
show
go
them, and
through.
they say,
Yes.
"Mommy misses Cassidy," and I said, "Yes, mommy misses Cassidy." They said, "But I love you
Hmm.
both so much," and I want them to be open about expressing their feelings,
Yes,
and
so
not
important.
bottle it in, and if they need to let it out, let it out.
Hmm.
Because it is healing when you every time you cry and every time you talk about it, and just being able to work through it as a family. Because I know it hasn't even been a year, but the older they get, the more they process, and
Hmm.
so these past, like we were saying, 45 weeks, it's definitely been a roller coaster, but the one solid thing in my life is definitely God, and then my family, and obviously isogenics is a huge pillar in my life.
Right.
um
And then you we talked about a little bit, and I want to just ask you this, and then we see how we can wrap this up, because I could keep on talking forever. And you just, your heart and your soul, I can just like feel it. And I tend to be someone that tries to keep, because I have these conversations often.
hmm
I try to be uh mindful of how I control my emotions on this side of the microphone.
yeah.
But it's been hard for me this time. Um I wanted to ask, because you were talking about just how also everybody processes grief differently,
Correct.
and the dynamics of you guys as a couple understanding that, you and
hmm
Christian understanding that you will all both grieve differently, and that your
hmm
grief will look different. Can you talk a little bit about that, because this may it be important for other
yeah.
couples out there?
So I feel like there really isn't any grief has many different forms. I feel like you cannot box it, and I feel like society really needs to know that. Like, you cannot box grief. There's no specific time, there's no deadline when you need to get over something. Like, no, it's
Mhm,
the rest of your life that a piece of you will always be missing. um you know um Whether it's a mom, a sister, a grandpa, somebody
mhm,
molded you, or made an impact on your heart in some way, that piece is gone. And so, me and my husband grieve completely different. Some days he's quiet and I could just sense it, and I just love him where he's at and I don't push him. And then some days it's me that's like that, and he's the same way. He just kind of reads we kind of read each other. And then sometimes I'm crying and I'm very emotional, but he doesn't make me feel like awkward or bad about it, or like you shouldn't grieve like that. And then sometimes he's angry, and
mhm.
grief can be angry. Sometimes he's
Yes.
very angry
Yeah.
that this has happened, and that he trusted somebody with the most valuable possessions that you cannot replace,
Mhm,
children.
mhm,
you know um and so that's where it's just, you have to be mindful and you have to be respectful of another person grieving, because I even have family members that grieve completely different. Do I agree with it? No, but
mhm,
it's their way of grieving, and
mhm.
so it's
Yeah,
different
honoring
for
people's grief. Yeah.
exactly, it's
Uh,
different for
yeah.
everyone. Like, my husband's more private about Cassidy, and me, I like telling her story. I'm very verbal about it. I feel like me telling it is healing for me, but also
Mhm,
not, it's like not forgetting, not that I'm saying I'll forget her, but it's honoring her memory every day in my life.
mhm,
Because she was since she was born, she was a part of my everyday life, and I will
mhm,
always continue to honor her in my everyday life. And
mm.
it's interesting because I went out to dinner last night and someone asked me how many kids I had, and I said, I have three. And one of my girlfriends choked up a little bit,
Mhm.
and we left, and she was like, I love that you still say you have three children. And I said, I will always have three
You
children
do. You
the
do.
rest of
Yeah,
my life, you know
absolutely.
and
That's
I've
why I introduced you mom of 3, because
yeah,
that is
exactly.
what
But
that
you
is
know
what
what?
you
Some
you
mothers
are.
that have lost babies, they don't do that, and that's
Mhm.
okay because that's their way of healing. But for
That's
me,
their
it's
way, and
like
it's
I
you
will
have to honor. Yeah.
I will always honor her. you know?
I think it's also the fact of I had an interview which I just released just shortly, not long ago, of somebody whose child died right after giving birth,
Mhm.
and so when she meets somebody and they ask that, she says she plays that 2 second game of like trying to figure out, do I
Mhm.
tell them the whole story
Yeah.
or not?
Yeah.
And it's something that is like, like she has to kind of make that decision in that moment when she's
Oh,
meeting
yeah.
somebody. Is this somebody I'm going to have if it's somebody I'm going to have in my life, then let me go into it a little bit
Mhm.
more. And if it's not,
Exactly.
then, yeah. So, and
Exactly,
you,
and
yeah,
that's kinda
you
how
don't
I
have to
am
tell the
too.
waiter. Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to
That's
tell the
exactly
waiter
how I
that.
am. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's funny because a
Uh,
lot of people on my team, Isogenics, you have teams, they did not know they're newer, and I met
uh-huh.
them through social media and stuff. They did not know I lost my child until they really started learning about me. And,
Hmm.
then respectfully they said, "Oh my gosh, Gloria, like I had no idea." Like, and I'll fill them in a little bit and elaborate on it. But for the most part, it's like, unless you really know me, then you really will know my story.
Hmm.
Um, but Kathy Cooper has a saying, you see the glory, but you don't know the story. So
The
I just
story.
love
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I love that
And
saying.
it's perfect for you
It's
because
perfect for
you're
me
like
because my name.
literally you see
Yeah,
glory, but you don't know her story. That should be
exactly.
the
Yeah.
title of this episode. You see glory, but you don't. So
Oh, that's really good. That would be
glory,
funny.
the that would be funny, right? I could put that. Glory, what I was gonna say too is that one of the things that I notice, and just how you said that people around you that are newer in your life don't
Hmm.
know your story, like you said,
Yeah.
it just shows that really the way you guys carry yourself with just still you could still see that fire and that zest for life that you have, and that is that twinkle in the eye has not disappeared even in the pain that you're going through,
Yes.
and that is just so admirable. And is that, am I saying it right? I always say I make up words here. Admirable,
Oh no, you're right.
admirable, you see. I am. It is okay. Does it, you see, I have to, like, is that a Spanglish? Did I just make a
Well,
word
then
up?
the longer you know me, the more you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Gloria made up another word." All my friends tell
Oh,
me all the
you do
time.
too?
Gloria
Oh,
has
you
her
make up
own.
words?
She
Okay.
has her own dictionary.
Oh, perfect. Well, Glory, I've got my own too. So we can create an encyclopedia with Glory's dictionary, Kendra's dictionary. Yeah, I make up words
It's
all
like
the time.
like
So,
Spanglish, so it's
oh, yeah.
English.
Yeah. That's me. So yeah, so that zest for life you have not lost, and you can see that. And if anybody listening to the story, the first this interview, the first at least 30 minutes we're talking, and you could hear your energy and your passion for life, and you would have not known that we were going to go on down this route of talking about something so hard that happened in your life. And I am just so grateful that you shared your journey, and it will continue to go, and this journey, and it will shift how it helps you grow. But the fact that you are now, what you've learned, as you said, the sweet and sour,
Hmm.
is the fact of living every day to the fullest, teaching your children that, and the fact that you don't fear death anymore, and really not really minding or caring what people say, because you're going to live life the way you feel is
Hmm.
intended to be lived. Just, it's such beautiful amount of gratitude to some extent for those growing experiences that have
Oh
come from
yeah.
something so hard.
The best,
So
yeah, the best advice I
thank
could
you.
give too, and how I live my life daily too, is find the things that bring you joy, because in joy
Mm,
there's strength. In laughter there's healing. And so, if it's like comedy movies or things that you love to do, books, reading, music, if you play piano or instruments, or things that just really bring joy to you, pull from those joyful sources. And that's really what I do every day too, is I focus on the things that bring me joy. And so people, I'm such a people. I love people. Like, I'm so passionate about people, and I just love people where they're at. And that's truly, I believe, is my calling. Is just to love people. And I feel like as humanity, as people, we are called to love, not to judge, not to be down, not to criticize, not to pick people apart, but we're just called to love people. Humans need humans. And that's why COVID, a lot of people are having a hard time with it, is because we're designed to be around people and have
yes, yes.
relationships and community. And so especially during this time, like I challenge people to make relationships on social media and
Mhm.
Facebook and
And they
send
work.
voice
Listen, you're
texts.
proof of
And
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
you're proof
do.
of
They
it.
really
You're
do.
proof of it that really all the community you built and that was there by your side were people you did not
Yeah.
know had you not
Yeah,
met
but
them
the
through social
best part
media.
is
So
when you
yeah,
meet these people in person, you already feel like you've known them your
you know
whole
them.
life.
Yes.
And that's
Well,
the
that's how I'm gonna feel
beautiful
when I see
thing.
you. When I see you in
Yeah.
person and whenever we have our next in-person event, just be ready for a tight hug,
Oh,
Glory, because
I love
hopefully by then
it.
hopefully by then we'll be able to have physical contact and
Contact,
events,
yeah.
large events again. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I love
I
it.
am so excited for this also new friendship and I appreciate you coming on and sharing this. So thank you once again, my dear.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on and being able to share not only my story, but especially Miss Kassidy Grace's story. So thank you.
Thank you, Kassidy Grace, for allowing us to share your story through your mommy. Thank you again so much for choosing to listen today. I hope that you can take away a few nuggets from today's episode that can bring you comfort in your times of grief. If so, it would mean so much to me if you would rate and comment on this episode. And if you feel inspired in some way to share it with someone who may need to hear this, please do so. Also, if you or someone you know has a story of grief and gratitude that should be shared so that others can be inspired as well, please reach out to me. And thanks once again for tuning in to Grief, Gratitude, and the Gray in Between podcast. Have a beautiful day.